Caitriona Balfe, we are more than midway through season 3 at this stage, and everybody's super excited about what we're seeing in Outlander. My first question to you straight off the bat is, we saw the print shop, so that whole big thing's happened, and everyone's totally excited about Jamie and Claire being back together. But can you talk us through filming that episode and how fun or exciting or challenging it was?
I feel like we should have almost just that, shouldn't we? Like to Ep6 and just finished it. No, it's very funny when you start off a season where you have such a clear, you know, everyone's so excited for this sort of one moment with these two characters reunite. But as an actor, you know, you've so much work to do before that and after that, that you, in some ways, you don't want to feed into the hype yourself, and you don't want to try and get too caught up in the conversation that goes around moments like this. But obviously for our characters, it's huge. I mean, it's such a flare to everything that she's known for 20 years. I mean, her daughter, I think that was one of the hardest things for me to wrap my head around, was how do you leave your daughter? How do you say goodbye to her and pretty much believe that you're probably never going to see her again? And so to trade that off for the love of a man as a modern woman, you're kind of like, whoa, where do I find that within me? Because I think if any woman really did do that, we'd all be like, you what? So there was a lot of that to try and wrap your head around. And the way I had to look at it, you have to always go back to the time that you're shooting in. And even though the 60s still feels very modern to us, it wasn't so long ago, in the 20s, 30s, 40s, even in the 50s, and, especially where I come from Ireland, if family members immigrated, you would probably never see them again. And so I sort of tried to wrap my head around it in that way. It was just like Claire was immigrating. That was it.
I like that.
So, but obviously of that build up to what is the reality of actually seeing someone that you haven't seen in 20 years? And what is the reality of, when you see them for the first time and all of the scenarios that you've had, but then what is that actual moment like? And you don't want to make it too much like the angels are singing and all of that. Like, you want to play the realism of it. So we all talked a lot about how awkward or clumsy or childlike you would become again, because you're just not sure what to do, and you have all this desire and all these expectations, but finding the reality in that, I guess, was the real big challenge, I suppose.
Speaking about the challenges, we did see the print shop episode, and it was such an anticipated one. And I know Sam got a little flack with how he interpreted seeing those pictures of Brianna for the first time. How do you balance what's in the book based on and what you want to do as an artist is interpreting those scenes?
Well, it's really threefold, because you have the book, which is what we tend to read before we start production, and then in many ways you have to shelve that, because I can't tell you how many times I've been in meetings with the writers and I'm like, you're not doing that moment. Why? Like, why aren't we doing that? So you have to kind of put the book to one side, and then you take the script as your blueprint, but it's still just a blueprint. We have 7 or 8 writers at this point. Every one of them has a slightly different voice, has a slightly different take on each character. Obviously they work very hard to keep through lines, but our job as an actor is to find the truth within your version of the character. And so somebody might write something that they say Claire is going to do, and I'll feel very strongly that that's not in line with my interpretation of this woman I'm playing. And so you do have to, it's a negotiation always. And, you know, if we were just hired to stand on our marks and do exactly as somebody told us to do, you know, we wouldn't be happy actors in the first place. But, you know, that's not an interpretation. That's not an actor doing their job. That's just somebody, you know, being a robot, and you know, none of us are that. So you know, it's a creative process. There's always going to be differences of opinion, and when it comes to creativity, what makes something so exciting, sometimes that's something really beautiful, and you're never going to please everybody. So as an actor, foremost, have to feel like what you're doing is truthful, because otherwise it'll just come across as forced or fake, and so you can never do that.
Yeah, that's a good point. And speaking of how you interpret Claire, this season I found, just in terms of my own viewing experience, that Claire has come back to that century a different person. She's older, she's more educated, she's more set in her ways. She's also trying to rekindle or reestablish this connection with Jamie, the man that she loves. And she's struggling with that. So there's a lot of nuance to what you're doing with Claire. And I'm wondering how that has been for you. Has it been a challenge, or has it been something that you've actively tried to focus on, because it's something that we're really noticing about her?
Yeah, it's funny. You know, I think what I was trying to play in the beginning of the season was someone who ways life, and she shelved a side of herself, so she rhythms, she has become slightly and much more than the woman that we'd seen previously. And that's, you know, having lived 20 years where, yes, she's had a loving relationship with her daughter and she's loved her career, but she's been without intimacy, and she's been without romantic or emotional love. And so that has to change somebody drastically. And then the flip of that is that once you've kind of shifted someone's center internally, when they go back and she's trying to reestablish that connection with Jamie again, and she's trying to find her feet again in this new time. I mean, I think it's the most insecure we've ever seen Claire be, because she's undoing 20 years of repression in many ways, and she doesn't really know who she is anymore in this time, and she is trying to find her center. And when, you know, I've experienced things like that on a short scale of, you know, I've lived in many different countries and done different jobs, and when you uproot yourself, it definitely, there's a time where you need to readjust, and you really need to find the ground under your feet again. And that's kind of what I was drawing on when I went to play Claire sort of in the latter half of the season, is just her not feeling like she's on solid ground, literally and figuratively, for a part of it, you know. Well,
it appears we've said goodbye to Tobias Menzies this season. So what was his last day like? What was your last scene together? Because it was such a big episode, episode 3. He was so good in that one. You both were great in that episode.
Thank you. He's wonderful. It's such a loss personally, and just for the show as well, because Tobias is just amazing, and he brings such great depth and gravitas to his characters. And our last day was actually a scene from episode 2. And it was that scene where they pull back and you see us both in single beds. Well, that was our first last day with Tobias, because he injured himself drastically. He had to come back and reshoot the second half of another scene. But the first last day, which is when he got his big clap and he got wrapped out, it was really sad. But I did get, like, it's one of those things when you're sort of in that emotional place. I got the worst fit of giggles in the world, because we had to shoot over me onto Tobias saying goodnight, but they needed me to basically turn around in my bed and then face plant down so the camera could see right past me without seeing any head. And we all just, we all lost it and everything. But yeah, it was very sweet. But yeah, we injured him pretty badly this season, so we scalped him. So he had to come back and finish the rest of that scene.
I reckon you probably did it on purpose because you just couldn't bear to be.
Well, everyone thought I hit him with an ashtray, and they were like, "Caitriona, it's okay, it's okay." And I was like, "It wasn't me. He hit the camera with his own head." So.
Okay, we'll just go with that story. Now, as fans, we are watching the show. You guys are on the ship, and you're headed to the New World. And we know that you filmed all that stuff in South Africa, unless I'm wrong, and something changed. So take us through what it was like to be in South Africa filming these particular episodes that we are clamoring to see.
It was great, and I've just seen the recent. I'm really only anybody else. Those they've been holding episodes. It's just so amazing, such a different scale. And you know, we went to where Black Sails used to film, and the setup there was amazing. I mean, they have 2 to 3. Pretty much 2 life-size, you know, maybe there's a floor or 2 less life-size ships built on land. There's one that's then on kind of the axle of a truck, so it can go in and out of water. And then they have the sets built in the studio that gimbal and rock and all of that. So, I mean, just for all of us, you know, we were like excited like little kids because you know, you're on something so new. And all the boys definitely wanted to climb up the rigging and all of those, that kind of stuff. But it's nice, you know, our shoot is always so long, and it's a tough shoot with all the kind of outdoor elements and everything like that, that it was great sort of the last half of the season to go somewhere new, and it really invigorated everybody, I think. And you know, it's nice to have that kind of fresh infusion of new characters as well, because they all come on and they're very enthusiastic and bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and the rest of us are all pretty exhausted. So it's always definitely, you know, their enthusiasm is infectious. So I think it was really lovely, yeah.
Speaking of new characters, we talked last year, and we're just wondering, are we gonna see Claire and Murtagh again together? Is he gonna be one of the characters we see?
I don't know. I almost got in a lot of trouble over my tweet that I tweeted early on. Let's hold this space. That's all I can say.
Yeah, say nothing. Just play the field.
I don't know. I can't say anything.
No, you can't. You'll be in so much trouble. They won't find.
I'll do a Jeff session on it, and I'll say I don't remember.
Or you could just lie, and that's what they do. That's what he does. So anyway, it's a whole other thing.
I thought we were going to get through one of these without talking about politics.
Oh, I know. We can't help ourselves. We can't help ourselves. So let's get super superficial for a second. So 2 Golden Globe nominations, Critics' Choice nomination. It's nothing to sneeze at. But we haven't really had a chance to talk about your Golden Globe nomination from earlier this year, and what was it like being back on that red carpet? I know it's a fun night. The show was represented once again. That's really hard, you know, by the way. The Golden Globes usually do away with shows once they've had a crack at it in the first year, but Outlander keeps coming back, so that means I really do love you guys. How did that feel?
You know, I find it so hard to, you know, I don't know, absorb those things, because obviously it's huge and you're thrilled and you feel like someone's probably made a mistake, but you know, it's such a cool thing to be a part of, and it's so rare that, you know, there's so many shows and there's so many incredible actresses who do such incredible work, and you know, it's hard to feel like there should be any kind of, you know, picking out of performances here or there, but it's just such a nice thing to get recognized, and it's a testament to the writing. You know, I especially last year had some incredible episodes, and I think when you're given material that you can really sink your teeth into, then, you know, it's just such a joy as an actor, and you know, I think as the whole cast and our crew. None of these performances happen, on their own. You're only ever as good as the person in the scenes with you or to you. And so when any of us get recognition like that, it's just really nice for all of us, because we work bloody hard. And, it's nice to get invited to a nice party.
Absolutely.
Those things are really lovely. But at the same point, this job is just bloody brilliant anyway. So I kind of feel like I'm one of the lucky ones. So.
Mm-hmm.
With so many, because you have been nominated twice, and there's so many great roles for women in drama right now. Is there any show or performance that you really admire or wish you had a crack at that role?
Elizabeth Moss is just incredible. The Handmaid's Tale is so wonderful. I was loving Big Little Lies as well. I'm a little bit behind on my TV at the moment, but I started watching The Sinner the other day, Jessica Biel, which is so great. There's so much, there's just so much good TV on right now. And I have so much catching up to do, but I think we're in a interesting time at the moment. I think it's nice that there's more and more talk of getting more and more women behind the camera and in positions of production and writing and all of that. And people of color, people from different backgrounds. It's just like, let's get everybody's represented, more interesting TV to watch. So I think that's starting to.
Yeah, it's very cool. Now you are currently back in Scotland. Can you explain, like, what are you filming now, and why are you back in Scotland? How does that all work? And when do you propose to finish filming this particular season?
We will be here until probably late June, which is quite a while away yet. We're back in Scotland because, we've set the show up here. I know we still do have parts of the show this season that will still take place in Scotland. So obviously I think everybody knows that the rest of the show or the season is taking place in Carolina or in. I think the logistics of moving the show to the US would have been too expensive. So we are matching Scotland for North Carolina. But it's great because I think, at least for the people who work on the show, this gives them a bit more job security. And we've such a talented crew here that we've been working with for 4 years now, that it would be really horrible if we sort of were just like, peace out, see you guys later, But it's interesting because it brings new challenges, just as much as the reason we came here in the first place was to give the show that kind of authentic Scottish quality. Now we're trying to replicate. So we're trying to do that for another place. And John Gary Steele, I think if anyone knows his work from previous seasons, he's just a genius. So far what we've been shooting in and shooting around, it's just been incredible. We've had we've shot at River Run, or our version of River Run, if people know the books, the first couple of weeks, and it was just incredible. We have this big old colonial style facade of a house built in a field somewhere, and it just looks amazing. And
wow,
you'd never know that it was only about deep, but yeah. But it's an exciting season this season, very different. I think it's all of the characters, or at least we're basically pioneers, and that in itself is a very unusual place for a lot of them to be in. So it's interesting.
Have you got anything else, Amanda, before we click off for today?
We have these awards every year, and so we do like best hangout, and we narrowly lost to Barry Jenkins, to a hangout from two of our colleagues with Barry Jenkins.
Meaning the hangout that we had with you,
Yes.
Caitriona.
Yes.
Oh,
It was
well,
very
it's okay.
popular.
I'm a big Barry
Very
Jenkins fan.
close.
So,
Yeah, he's pretty good.
Yeah, pretty
He's
good.
pretty
If we're gonna lose to a
We're
direct.
going to lose to an Oscar winner. Let's do
Yeah,
that.
let's go there. Okay.
So we're hoping maybe you could give us some really good tidbits about the season finale that might just push us over the top this year.
God.
No pressure.
Shall I just look at my old script and start reading it?
Pretty much. But like, give us like 3 words that will describe something from the season. That's what we asked Caitriona about the leftovers, and that seemed to work okay.
Yeah. To describe the season finale.
Right. So, the Bacra. Big Wave. And New Beginnings.
Wow.
Ooh.
I think that's just going to set Twitter on fire. And I love it. I love every second.
God.
That's really
Don't get in
good.
trouble.
No way. They can't fire you. They can't do the show without you, so it's all good. Caitriona, as always, we really, really appreciate you talking to us here at Gold Derby. You know how much we support and love the show, and good luck for the rest of the season, and of course for all the awards and the attention that come your way. You totally deserve it.
Well, thank you so much.